So Peter Do left Helmut Lang or got kicked, got sacked. I don't know. Really untimely. Yesterday, I literally just posted this essay that I wrote about Peter Do and Helmut Lang, how I think Peter Do's style synergizes with Helmut Lang's brand, identity, history, or whatever. And I kind of want to use this video to read through my essay. You can find my essay on Patreon, but I want to read through it and then offer my insight into what I think the synergy was, what I think the goods and the bad was. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. So I named this Do and Lang. I'm just reading off of my phone right now. When news broke that Peter Do would take over Helmut Lang, a name dormant for many years, everyone in fashion crowd cheered. We did. We sure did. We are excited to see someone at helm directing a brand with such prominent cult following, and many of us think that Peter Do is one of the best candidates to take over Helmut Lang. I'm sure a lot of people actually don't like Peter Do directing at Helmut Lang. They think other people, I'm not sure who, is better, but in my opinion, Peter Do is really good for a job, perfect fit for a job. While hopeful, my excitement was dimmed by the immediate reminder of my comment on Gabriella Hearst Chloe. Hearst is a fantastic designer who embodies so much color and distinctive cultural edge that she brings to Chloe. While she was creative director for the storied Parisian brand, she remained the creative director at her eponymous brand. Though spectacular, my feeling towards her work at Chloe and the Gabriella Hearst label are not as solid as my love for her as a designer. Well, I don't know why I'm stopping because it's literally explained what I was going to say. From time to time, you can see where the attention went. Sometimes she spent more time at Chloe, sometimes her brand, and even worse, effort was shown in neither collection. To quote myself, I noticed Gabriella Hearst ignored her brand okay, I'm not going to read through this, but basically, I think Gabriella Hearst was a really good designer, but when she was directing at both brands, her attention was divided. And at times you see one collection better than the other, or you can see that even one collection wasn't putting as much effort as the other collection. Sometimes with Chloe, sometimes with Gabriella Hearst. It's a tough watch, not gonna lie, because in that newsletter I specifically said that I think Gabriella Hearst's departure from Chloe is a blessing in disguise, so she can just focus on her thing now. Peter Do is a designer to be reckoned with. He possesses something that defines him in the new age. It may be the persistent shoulders, it may be the subtly sci-fi feel to suits, it may be the way he can craft images as well as great clothes. Whatever my prejudice was, Peter Do has certainly shown us that he excels at his job. My intention with this essay is to discuss the relationship between Peter Do's style and Helmut Lang's identity, which is precisely where the potential, all the good and the bad, to drag Helmut Lang out of a slumber lies. I want to use the duration of this essay as a map of my thought journey, making sense of why Do's Helmut Lang is the right thing at the right time. So when I write essays like this, sometimes I don't really have I don't follow like a literary structure, or at least I don't think so. And I just kind of use the essay as I said, like a map for my thought journey, and I lay things out. Sometimes it can be messy, but I try not to be. So I hope this makes sense to you. Okay. So first section I wrote what was, which is which talk about what Helmut Lang was, what I think Lang was. My appreciation for Lang was rooted in the impact he made and distinctiveness rather than the actual aesthetic values of the clothes. His clothes are era appropriate, and I cannot say that they can compete with what's out there today, which is true. I don't think Helmut Lang creates specifically cool looking stuff. The Astral jacket, obviously everyone loves that. Is it because his archive is old? I don't know, but I just don't think Helmut Lang aesthetically has a competitive edge in nowadays clothes. But certainly, my appreciation for the brand lies in the impact he made. Lang was a known 90s giant and was relatively elusive, though not extreme as figures like Margiela or Carol Christian Paul. Lang did famously mention how one should not overly expose oneself. Publicity has always been a game that designers and artists can choose to play. It isn't mandatory. In fact, there exists a rather polarizing narrative surrounding whether artists need to promote their art or market themselves. The brand Helmut Lang somewhat embodied the designer's philosophy on exposure in the age of logomania, bracket, a blanket statement for what was popular in the 70s and 80s, close bracket. Lang was the antithesis, opting for subtle colors with hints of vibrancy. Now is an excellent time to point out that Helmut Lang started designing in the 80s, and his earlier collection was relatively vibrant before his more popular 90s post-recession era. It is not as vibrant as Versace's, but decadent enough to starkly contrast his later more popular work. Although describing the brand as a juxtaposition to the era it followed is somewhat truthful, I find the statement reductive, taking attention away from Lang's way of fashion. To dress this as the only decision made to go the opposite direction seems stubborn, reducing Lang to a simple contrarian rather than motivated by something more than the aftermath of Black Monday. So what I mean here is that I think a lot of people reduce designers in the 90s that went more minimalistic than designers in the 80s as minimalist designers, or what they choose to do is the opposite of 80s, and that kind of boiled them down to one thing, which is they don't want to do what 80s designers are doing. And I think that's kind of reductive, as I said, because there are a lot of motivators. I'm sure that's one of them, like, too much color, I don't want too much color, I want subtlety. But I don't think that's it, you know what I mean? So I don't want to just coin Helmut Lang as a minimalist designer of our age, you know what I mean? I don't want to. I have to put myself in the shoes of someone still high off of Versace and Jean-Paul Gaultier while simultaneously witnessing hip-hop artists donning Tommy Hilfiger and Rifat Ozbek's stunning introduction of Turkish motifs. Helmut Lang was a calm stream compared to passionate waves, protected by polite usage of adornments. Lang was certainly a change of fashion weather, impactful but not destructive. Exactly my feeling of Helmut Lang, the brand. Impactful but not destructive. For a 1999 spring ready-to-wear collection, Lang returned to a stable sense of minimalist coolness we see in this debut collection, while innovating the idea of accessories vêtements. This collection will appear somewhat flat if you view it as a whole, with no statement pieces to ground the collection around besides the somewhat out there silver biker pants. This SS collection crushed any expectation of wow factors and superficial differentiators, and forced viewers to adapt to find the interesting in the details. True. If you zoom in and assess the collection by each pieces within each ensemble, you will see that this collection is layered with wonders. Similarly, in Fall/Winter 2003, the entire collection consisted of 3 main colors, and the holiness lies within the fine prints, the ladder tights, the seatbelt harness, or something like Look 27, a possibly wool single arm sleeve worn on top of a jacket. Everything's almost made impossible for the audience to identify what's on what in a few seconds when most of the ensembles are black stacked on top of more black. This remained Lang's modus operandi. Once again, true. Like those two collection, you gotta zoom into the details and like, oh my god, that's what they're doing. Wow, that's beautiful. But when you zoom out, it's just 30 all black looks. You know what I mean? With his departure in 2005, various designers have taken over the label, including Guest Collection by Hood by Air's Shane Oliver. When a designer comes into a relatively storied label or one with strong aesthetic rules and values, they try to walk carefully between a line of innovating while staying on course of what the founder would have done. However, I would argue that only Shane's collection was memorable. Seeing such a wild interpretation of a polite brand was pretty exhilarating, possibly too wild. Even then, it didn't make a lasting impact on me because it was more Oliver than Lang. Like a well-executed parody of a classic painting. You learn about the painter's name, you learn about the why, you compare the parodic painting to the original in your mind, you scan up and down, left to right, and say, oh wow, that's cool, and you walk away. That's true. A lot of people said that, in the post of, Peter Do leaving Helmut Lang. Some comments said that, only Shane Oliver's collection was actually beautiful, actually impactful. True, but I don't think that he is still a good fit for Helmut Lang because that collection was more Shane Oliver than Helmut Lang. Kind of similar to what I'm going to talk about Peter Do, but different. Listen. So next section is called How Peter Do Fits. Peter Do's landing at the label must have been a stressful one. The amount of expectation and pressure on him to do well was made worse when he made quite a name for himself with his own brand, laden with award nominations as well. The fashion world spotlight was on him, and many were excited to see if the Vietnamese fashion superforce could revive Lang's name for good. The day finally came, the 8th of September 2023, the judgment day, all eyes on Do. My first comment about Do's debut was that it seemed unfitting and empty. The collection is a clear homage to Lang's official debut collection, which is evident in the pink and seatbelt motifs. Combining Ocean Vuong's poems, this felt like a trip down memory lane more than an effort to revive the brand. However, it did feel like the references were never ending. That collection just felt like a galore of references. So my initial comment was that I don't really like this collection. I wish to retract and offer a new perspective, a better delivered sentiment of sorts. I figured I made a rush judgment on Do's debut. After going through the collection for the 5th time, it is evident to me why I felt the way I felt. It was indeed a galore of references, and if we would miss it if one less. But the problem was that I was assessing the collection through the lens of Peter Do's brand instead of Helmut Lang. Peter Do's tailoring is remarkable. His way of twisting and twirling sharp edges and menacing fluttering of suits and coats made sure most of us remember who is the creator. Instead of sharp, pretty, and rigid, it's sharp, pretty, and sturdy, like a chef's knife made out of Damascus steel. Wow, what an analogy. When Helmut Lang kickstarted the trend for contemporary menswear with his collections, it was not the most ambitious way of menswear yet. Besides the exciting combination of designer and traditional tailor's wear, there isn't anything else to give besides the realization of how menswear can be. Like critics back then said that Michael Kors was providing the same thing at a cheaper price. So for Do to recall that 1994 collection, it may seem fitting as it's iconic. Still, it wasn't the most potent signifier of what Helmut Lang was capable of. And to be fair, it's hard to contextualize what Lang's magic is by referencing his archive. So what I mean by here is that those references made in the first collection was not the best. And therefore, Peter Do, we see more of Peter Do than Helmut Lang. And therefore, I felt like it is not really Helmut Lang. My same argument for Shane Oliver's collection. It is not really Helmut Lang, it's Shane Oliver. There's not really Helmut Lang, it's Peter Do. If I recalibrate and reassess the collection, I will still say that it is not the best reference point to base a debut collection on, with the hopes of presenting the most powerful, instead of iconic, side of Lang. With a not so ideal reference point, in my opinion, Peter Do's own elements shine through so much more than Lang's. Of course, once again, the pink sash and references to Helmut's famous taxi advertisement and perfume poem ad, we know that Do's paying homage. But the shape of the collection, the inherent pointiness, the collars, the sharp edges, the shoulders, the lapel, the everything, the perfectly fitted trousers, all scream Peter Do. Maybe the trousers, Helmut Lang as well, because he did say that Helmut Lang is the best trousers. And rightfully so. How I looked at it was how Peter Do held himself back instead of Peter Do is trying to design for Lang. Now that's the main point. That collection felt like it was Peter Do holding himself back, designing for something else, like a diffusion line. Right now, Do's style is engulfing Lang's, creating something comparable to Sarah Burton's revamp of McQueen. However, the overpowering style was unexpectedly a good thing. After his debut, the rather social media active Peter Do continuously teased Helmut Lang's audience with new photos, new clothes, new angles, new thoughts. Done not through the official Helmut Lang account, but Peter Do's personal account. This allowed him to showcase a side of brand that isn't hyper-edited or planned, or at least that's what we would expect. The images he posted on his personal account gave us more to determine what his intention was with the brand. Peter Do wants to provide a sort of uniform for NYC through Helmut Lang. With his own brand, Peter Do is allowed to go a bit wilder. It's like his lab for tailoring. Seen with his SS25 collection for Peter Do, he almost completely abandoned his signature sharp suits for something more freeformed. As I said in one of my videos about this collection, it felt lethargic and humid, a proper summer in Southeast Asia. Even though I haven't entirely gelled with this new vision, I'm convinced that this new style will mature with the coming seasons. On the other hand, at Helmut Lang, he is a bit more careful and modest, intending to create something that fits the city's specific sense of sartorial, quiet arrogance. The feeling that Peter was trying to model his debut collection after became his source of ultimate inspiration. My previous comparison to Sarah Byrne may even be unfitting, as Sarah was McQueen's protege. Her effort in a way was true to his vision. Peter grew up idolizing Lang. His vision is limited by fantasy and his emotion towards what Lang means to him and the people. So, what I mean here is that although I find Peter's style like overpowering Helmut Lang's, this ultimately allowed Peter Do to steer Helmut Lang into a new direction, but sort of still what Helmut Lang set out to do, which is a new way of menswear, a new way of suiting, a new way of something. And his focus of creating a uniform for New York City, because from the pictures you can see that there are a lot of people crossing the road in New York City wearing the same thing. And that's the vibe that I get from Peter Do's vision of Helmut Lang, like a new way of sartorial, as I said. The current Helmut Lang, this is the last paragraph. The current Helmut Lang is not groundbreaking, unlike how I would feel towards Robert I or Jordan Arthur Smith. Moreover, I think the overlapping of Peter Do and Helmut Lang will be a bigger problem as time passes if left unattended. Why should one choose one brand over another? That's one big problem that I see, though, with Peter Do and Helmut Lang. I mean, Peter Do and Peter Do at Helmut Lang, which is they are starting to morph together. So this new vision that I just mentioned at his own label, like something that is not sharp suits, is that his way of separating himself from what he's doing at Helmut Lang? Does he want to lend his signature style to Helmut Lang and experiment with something else at his brand? As I said, his brand may be like a lab, like a style lab for himself. We don't know now that he's left, so. But one might even argue that it is never a good thing to hire someone with a strong character to design for a house with a mature style. That it would be better if the designer grew together with the brand. I'm reluctant to agree with that argument, but it does hold some truth. Nonetheless, Peter Do is steering the brand's revival in a great direction, where the Helmut Lang brand is trying to build a uniform for those who get it. So that's the end of my essay. So my whole sentiment, well, now, once again, now not that it matters right now because he left. My sentiment is that, number one, Peter Do's a good fit. Number two, Peter Do's style's overshadowing Helmut Lang. But number three, because of this overshadowing, we see that Peter Do's trying to transform the brand into something else. Okay? So three things. And I love Peter Do's style, so I think Peter Do is doing a good thing for Helmut Lang. A lot of people would, once again, argue with me, saying that, oh, it's different, not Helmut Lang anymore, they just burned the brand down like McQueen. Once again, I think it's a really stupid argument. But yeah. What do you think? Let me know. If you want to read the essay without any buts and maybes and all the filler words and me stuttering, it's on my Patreon. Once again, I have other essays posted there. So if you like to read, go there. Comment down below what you think. Like, talk to me about it.